can we understand a startup potential in terms of funding? Probably, is it fundable? How to know the stage of the time to fund a startup, like the stage.
All right. So to help her, as a startup, how do we know when to go for funding? How do we know when to raise funding? And we'll direct this to Mr. Agusto.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know whether that's one question or two questions. Because say how she said stage of funding, and she said how do we know when to fund. So I can take it as two questions and answer that. One is from the investor perspective, and the other is from the perspective of someone that wants to raise money. When do I go out to raise money? It would depend on what you need, your requirements. For example, depends on the type of business you want to do. Some businesses are capital intensive, some are knowledge driven. If, for example, you want to start building warehouses throughout Nigeria and you want to use those warehouses that you have close to the market to distribute consumer products, then you need to raise money even before you start business, because it's a business that is capital intensive and it is a business that you can't do anything without having capital up front to build all those warehouses. So that's one business. You have to start early before you even making revenue at all. That's when you need to raise capital. Another extreme end is a business that is knowledge intensive. If you are knowledge intensive, what you really want to do is to use your knowledge as much as possible to continue to add value, and then you will now price your business at a premium, usually huge premium, depending on the growth potential of the problem you want to solve with technology. And then you will now raise money sometime after you have actually started building the idea, indeed test marketing, getting some revenue, and then you can now argue on the business that, by the way, I'm raising capital to be able to grow this business, to expand it. This is the potential of the business, and then you want to use that growth story to value your business as much as you can, but you need to have the right balance. When you overvalue, you raise money this first round, you may not find people to put money the next round. I don't know whether I've been able to answer that question.
Okay, so we will probably discuss this, focusing more on the knowledge-intensive sector, which is predominantly what you have in the room. So for your undertaking, you're looking at a cycle, inevitable one, from ideation to execution. Your funding needs start from day one, no doubt, because there's what they call pre-seed funding. But your ability to attract investors from the outside will depend on what you've sown before the seeds actually manifest through the process of, let's say, ideation and project development, and now you have what they call possibly a prototype in place. either in form of physical product or a tangible solution that you want to deploy. But when do you know it's time to approach that external help or the third-party investor? I think the guiding principle is basically the appetite and the objective. So when your seed arrives and you want to produce, on a larger scale, that will be a tenable sell to any investor. But if the purpose, like I heard during the last panel, is to pay yourself some salary or to maybe buy some, posh, cars, you know that exercise will be failure, on delivery. If your objectives align with what it should be, then the next thing you want to know is, okay, how do I pitch this to my investors? So your journey, while the stage where you're doing personal funding or funding for the pre-seed can be subjective, the objective side of, the seed manifesting is going to be driven by needs. It won't be because you woke up this morning feeling, and this needs to go into the form of the documents you then have to push out. So it's more of your product telling you this is the time and this is the purpose than you spontaneously racing it. It won't be healthy, for instance, for you to say, I have these ideas in my head, I then want funding. If you're lucky, maybe a few people, you're likely to get funding from your closer inner circle than you will from the external. But when you spend these resources to actualize that even a common man on the street can relate with the idea you are pushing because it's now looking like a tangible product, that looks more like a sustainable period for you to push it out and say, this is the problem, this is how I'm solving it, you take a look at it. And then that will give you or lead you to the path, definitely, of successful funding.
A quick introduction. Now Mr. Taye was speaking. We're honored to have the Managing Director of the AROL. Please pardon me if I often struggle with the arrangements, right? She is the Managing Director of AROM Lagos Labs first. Okay, AROM Labs Lagos Techstars Accelerator program. Now, this is a tech community. Everybody here knows Techstars, yes? Managing Director. That should resonate more. All right, thank you so much for coming, Mrs. Her name is Mrs. Oyin Solebo. Thank you so much for coming. Now, one quick question, and then, of course, I'll come over to you, Habibat. Honorable SSA. We are in Lagos. We are doing business in Lagos. And the theme for this is prepare for funding. What are the provisions of the state when it comes to, startups looking for funding? What should we expect from the Lagos State government?
Thank you very much, and good morning once again, everybody. Let me first and foremost commend the brains behind this wonderful initiative, because while we gather together, it is important for us to continue to engage towards achieving better results in our efforts at self-development and economic empowerment and collective good generally. This is a good endeavor, and our presence today as a government, even in the face of the fact that our schedule is extremely busy, given the election and all of those things. My presence today, is known to the governor and to our office, and is a validation of the fact that anything that seeks to promote or to advance the cause of humanity and economic growth in Lagos State, we are very, very committed to this. And I can say very clearly that this is perhaps the only state in Nigeria that is always engaging in things like this. And it's not about, trying to come on this platform to sell what Lagos State is just doing, is just to also open ourselves to interrogation, because we know that we are dealing with a lot of people who are intellectually formidable to ask probing questions and to actually point to the directions where government is not doing well. I have listened to the previous panel and I have listened to the brilliant submissions of, the individuals I'm privileged to share this panel with. And I can say to you that this is the direction and this is the kind of partnership Lagos State government is always looking forward to having. Because we know that the knowledge and ability does not rest with the government alone. In fact, sufficiently it rests with the people. And we have many of these people in this assembly, and I commend you for your presence as well. In terms of the effort that we have made so far, I'm speaking to the largely tech community here, but we have entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship cuts across different areas of human endeavors, fashion, lifestyle, entertainment, tech, and all of that. But across that spectrum, Lagos State government has done so well. For those people who may not have the privilege of accessing some of our resources or knowing some of our programs, I will start from Lagos State Research and Innovation Council. This is an initiative that was brought to fore immediately Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu came into power. He saw the need to enhance the capacity of those within the creative and innovation space. And he thought that it is important for us to interact not just with the entrepreneurs, but those also in the academic space, so that we can be able to attract numbers of young people, particularly who are into IT, who have solutions to some of the problems that we are facing as a society. So that platform is open. Lagos State Research and Innovation Council. I think at the point we had the chairman of the council, the VC of UNILAG, the immediate past VC of UNILAG, Professor Ogundepe. Let me speak about my office. Goal 8 of the SDGs speaks about economic growth and decent work. There is no better way to speak about decent work than what everybody in this room is constantly doing in terms of ideas that would address some of the problems we have in health, we have in transactions, mobile transactions, and all of that. So recently we came up with an initiative, we called it SDG Talent Challenge, where across we have 17 goals of SDGs. So each SDG goal, from goal 1, no poverty, to zero hunger, we put it out there in the public that everybody should submit, proposal and all of that. And each individual, we have 5 million naira. This is a grant. It is not, something that somebody will come and be chasing you all about. It is so difficult to secure funding, even as a startup. That is why we are having this kind of intellectual engagement, so that we can have an opportunity to access funding and to also learn from how we can be able to improve what we are doing if we are not doing it well. Some of the problems we have during this application process is the fact that just like we have unemployment problem in Nigeria, we also have unemployable problems. People are not just unemployed, but they don't have what it takes to get into employment. Some people know what they can do, but to fulfill some of the requirements in the application to access some of our funding is a problem to some people, and I believe some startups are also having it. When we received this invitation letter, we heard the organizers wrote something about presentational skill, some of these necessary soft skills that you can use to convince potential funder to see that your project is bankable, to see that this is something that we can, look at in the next 2 or 3 years that we can support. Some of these things are lacking in some of the applications that we have available. And Mr. Governor has approved over 250 million naira for this project. So what did we do? We moved quickly and we started something what we call Lagos State Mentorship Round. Some of these, apologies if many of you did not hear about this program, but we are doing so much and we need to get closer to the government, honestly. So we started this project and we saw application within a week, over 5,000 people coming forward to want to be part of this engagement. And, okay.
You are quite passionate about this, and it's obvious, right? You are going to get the time actually, sir, to really talk about some of these things. But there's quite a lot of questions. We want to be able to, I'm sure that she has a question.
May we ask the importance of Accelerator for a startup? Yes. Importance of Accelerator in a startup program for a incubator program. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody, and my apologies for being so late. First of all, to introduce, so yes, I'm the Managing Director for ARM Labs, Agusto, Techstars, Accelerator, and we invest in early stage, pre-seed tech startups. So this year we've invested in 12 African startups across fintech and prop tech. Can I just ask, how many people in here run technology companies? Okay, good. So what we do is we provide them with capital. So we invest up to $120,000 in your business. We then put you through an accelerator program. And what that means is that you're with us in our offices in VI for about 3 months, and you're getting mentorship, coaching, hearing from industry experts. We're getting CEOs from big fintechs and prop techs coming and speaking to you, individuals from big multinational companies, the banks, the telecoms, coming in and forming partnerships with you, all in aid to give you the tools and the expertise and the knowledge that you need to accelerate and grow your business. We also provide you with an international network. So we have around 7,000 mentors within our community, but we provide curated 100 mentors that are working specifically with the companies in the accelerator. So the value ultimately is that you come into the accelerator, maybe with an idea, maybe with some proven traction, and then after the 3 months, you have gained knowledge, expertise, money, relationships to really help you scale your business.
All right, thank you so much for that. I'm really, really interested. And this question really, I'm going to pass it to Mr. Taye, and of course, I would want Mr. Agusto and you, Mrs. Oyin, to weigh in on this. One investor, how do you know that a startup is ready for funding? How do you assess this? Let's have Mr. Taye first.
So, from an investor so from our side, we can always look at it from the preparedness. So you start from the document. So you definitely invite a pitch from a startup, and basically they give you information. Before moving forward, they already give you something interesting that you want to invest in. And the funds are there. Now you're looking to them checking all the lists. So starting from documentation, are the necessary documents in place? For instance, it's inevitable that they have some founders agreement in place between the founders if there are more than one. And are there clauses in there that prohibit you from investing in it? Are there material clauses in their founding agreement that will impact your investment into the business? When you go in, would you be taking, are you going to get the same level of priority, or are you subjected? Are you secondary in both rights and privileges and whatever carry rights you're getting from the entity? That's one. Then two, you come to the regulatory side. You want to check the company. Are these guys checking all the boxes? Do they have penalties that are hanging over their heads? Do they file all their returns? Are they, for instance, licensed by the relevant regulatory agencies? A whole lot is coming out lately. You have the CBN up in its game to, meet the startup, especially the fintech. You have the FCCPC coming up. You have, the NDPB coming up with certain. So this, maybe some 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, it was a freestyle arrangement. But right now, an investor wants to pay attention to the standing of any, startup that they are going into to see whether, these guys are some disaster waiting to happen or they are actually checking that box. Then you have also, what is the stage of preparedness of the company? Essentially, if you're talking fintech, a good percentage of your assets will be, the largest component will be intellectual, not some houses in Ikoyi or Marina. They are actually the ideas that you've curated and turned into a solution. These are intangibles. How protected are they? Are they proprietary? Is it theirs? Or are they licensed to use it? If it's proprietary, do they have fundamentals in place, like is the source code theirs or is it a third-party store? So this is another level you want to get your assurance. You don't need funding, properly so-called. If, for instance, I'm bringing an idea to you, the basic things like registration of company, you don't need funding for that. The basic things like registration of trademarks, you don't need funding for that. The basic things like you have your agreement for software development or application development. Maybe at certain level you need an external investor for that. I had started this whole discourse by saying there is what you call pre-seed funding. In a proper setup, you can look inward for some of this pre-PFS kind of funding. You're not going to go to an investor to say, please give me funding. I want to go to CAC to register my company. That is insignificant. So basically, these are the things that I, as an investor, will want to look at.
So, I think there are some fundamentals you need to have, like your company registration. But then when it comes to regulation, it can be very expensive. And the question is, have you even proven that there's a market for the business you're creating before you go and spend this money? So from my perspective, the 4 things I would say are most important after you've done your company registration is the team. Do you have the right individuals in your team who can execute your vision? Have you got a track record of working together, showing that you can achieve something that means that an investor will believe that if they give you money, you're going to do well? So for me, that's the number one thing, the team. And that also means you're focused. You're not doing side gigs everywhere. You're focused on this business that you're creating. The second one I look at is market. Have you seen that there is a market for the business that you're creating? Have you been able to show that customers will use your product, use your service, and pay for it, and that market is growing in the right direction? The third thing is the product, and that means, have you thought about how you're actually going to serve your customer with a product or service? And that doesn't mean you need to go and build a big technology platform. I know that there are so many of us, so many engineers in Nigeria, and you rush to write code before you've even proven that there's a market. So sometimes it means going and selling your service. You're going up to the person selling the service. You don't have the tools, you don't have the technology, but again, you're proving that there's a business that once we give you money, you will be able to build something scalable. And then the fourth thing I would say is traction. So have you shown that people want your service? Have you been able to find a handful of people that are willing to pay for the service that you're providing? So for me, once you have all of those 4 things and your company is registered, then we can start talking about, okay, what regulation will you need to grow, all these things. That's my perspective. So number 1, team. Who are you? What experience do you have? What expertise do you have? Many of you will be students, that's fine, but maybe in your student life you've done something to show that you can build, you can work hard, you can achieve, and you've done it collectively with the people that you're building with. And you're focused on the business that you're working on. So number 1 is team. Number 2 is market. Is there a market for what you're selling? Can you prove that if we give you money and investment, there are enough customers out there that will buy this service or product and that market is growing? Number 3 is the product. So have you figured out a way to deliver whatever this need is to your customers in a way that will scale? And number 4 is traction. Have you at least got some customers that have said or shown you that they are prepared to buy your product or service, so that we know when we give you money, there's evidence that if we give you more money, you're going to continue growing. So team, market, product, traction.
Thank you very much for the question. The beautiful thing about speaking last is that I'll just add 1 plus 1 together and it will be equal to 3. So I'll have the highest mark. So it dealt with a lot of details at the due diligence level, and the devil is in the details, trust me. Whatever he's told you, maybe you want to get his card and be close to him. She has talked about concept, and concepts are fantastic. You must have principles, broad visions and ideas to be able to dream your dreams. And when you come with the dream, he's going to look at the details to see whether they are achievable. Now, there are 2 constants in business: people and money. And believe me, even at the very early stage of company registration, you may need money. It depends on how deep your pockets are. You never know. And you can't even, she won't talk to you, by the way, if you don't have a company registered, you know? So people and money are important. But I'll tell you a little bit about valuation of businesses. Businesses typically, in the traditional way, when they are fully set up, are very easy to value. You look at the track record, you look at the number, you make your projection, and you come up with a valuation. That type of valuation is more of a science than an art. But when it comes to early stage, there is lack of track record. A 23-year-old is coming to you saying, my business is worth $1 million. Some of us, we knew that to acquire $1 million from your employment as a professional, it takes a long time. And you'll be looking at him like this. Why would I entrust my money with this upstart? That person we are talking about has never done anything other than he has a dream, he has an idea, and he's speaking a lot of English to you. So that's usually very difficult, extremely difficult to value and to even decide whether you want to make investment or not. And this is why the question is a fantastic question. And at this stage, I will advise the young people that want to raise money, never give up, because there is no answer. This same question, if you ask 10 experts, they'll give you 10 different answers. Yeah, the concept will be the same, but decision may be totally different. So I will try and answer it in about 5 or 6 points, but make it brief, because I'll be drawing from the 2 of them. They've actually covered everything, so I won't take much of your time. Now, when something is more an art at a science, how you feel. So one of the first things for you, if you want to face someone to raise money, and you must know what you are talking about. So if I want to make investment in a startup, and we've made some, I'm looking at the quality, passion, commitment, and integrity of founders. Can I trust you? Are you passionate? Do you know what you are talking about? All right? So you must be able to convince me within that period of time, because I may not give you another meeting. So that's your opportunity. But let me take integrity out. How do you assess integrity? It's difficult to assess, but the best way you can demonstrate integrity, sincerity, is transparency. You must be transparent what you are doing. Don't hide. All right? You must be accountable. Even if you have been doing it on your own for 6 months and you list out what you have done, you are accounting. People will say, well, that is true. So transparency, accountability are very important. Now, market opportunity. There must be significant growth potential for someone to listen to you. The problem must be huge that you want to solve. Then you get the attention and interest of an investor. But how do you demonstrate it? You must have it documented, clearly thought out business stage. So when you have a business plan, when you have clearly thought out business plan, that's when you can demonstrate whether there is traction or not. Don't bother yourself whether it's perfect. We are not seeking perfection here. They are accelerators. They are going to help you. But you must know what you are talking about, because time is money. People don't want to waste time. It's not going to do diligence on any company that doesn't make sense ab initio. So that's important. All right? It's better if you are looking at technology business. And it delved a lot on that. When you are talking about interesting technology that you have intellectual property on, you will get someone to listen to you. Now, what people will be looking for when you want to raise money at times, they look at you, okay, I can part my money, but the next phase of rounding, can this one raise money? If I don't believe that if I give you money, then the next round you'll be able to raise money, I probably won't give you, because I know that giving you money is pre-seed. We haven't even got into seed. All right? But, and this brings me to what we call valuation. Young people call any valuation, and it's an art. So it's not a science. You get someone to give you money, another person will give you money. But the early stage investors want reasonable terms. It wants appropriate valuation, and it's about negotiation. And if you have people that are going to back you, they are going to be incubator, they are going to have value to your perspective, they have potential investors lined up for you. You had better be more modest with your valuation, because the real value is not the money you take today and use to build technology that's not ready for the market. It's ability to say, I've raised money to this stage, this is what I've done with it, I want to raise another money. That's accountability. It's usually staged, and you have to have clarity. And I'll share something with you. You need motivation to start. And I can almost bet that the fact that you guys are here, you're all motivated to be here. But that's half of the story. You need discipline to continue. Discipline to continue. And there will be a lot of headwinds. There will be moments of doubt. And that's why we love, I like the idea of incubators. We invested in fact, it was a personal investment, not a company investment, in a young man. About a year ago, he was doing something innovative. It wasn't clear to me how we will make money, by the way. At times, you are not clear how they make money, then you give them money. Because there is skill, there is passion. I trust the young man. And you know what he asked me? Okay, what type of return makes sense to me? What am I looking for? I told him, up front, before putting money down. I'm a sophisticated investor. When you make this type of investment, I know I can lose money. And losing money is not the problem for me. But you have to demonstrate to me how I've lost money. Don't come and tell me that the money is finished. You have to be accountable, number one. Number two, even when you are making money, you have to show me what you are making. You can't be keeping something on the side and say, we made this year. No, you need to demonstrate that. But you know what? This is a question we cannot exhaust. You can go on and on and on. So thank you very much.
So thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. The other time I was seeing something raising your hand, we have.
Just want to take few questions from the audience.
Outside.
No, I can go meet them. It's fine. Let them sit. While we will take those questions, I would ask Mr. Agusto, how do we pitch to you, sir, if we want to raise funding from you? Where do we find you? How do we find you? How do we pitch to you? Yes, sir, if we want to raise funding from you. And of course, I'm coming to Mrs. Solebo. Perfect. Please.
My email will be available, but I'll also put another email where people will be copied, because ultimately I'm not the first person that will address this issue, but because I have very highly motivated people in this hall, don't share my email with any other person, but I'll make it available, but there'll be a copy. You are better off getting response from those other people than myself, but if I'm in copy, at least it gives me an idea, but I may not be able to respond to those mails, but I'll make it available. All right?
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Timmy. Thank you very much for the session. My question is directed to Mrs. Oyin Solebo. How do you exactly value early stage startup for pre-seed round? I mean, what are the metrics you look at, especially for pre-products, pre-revenue, and if post-revenue, what is the exact number? I mean, the number exactly. I mean, the numbers, because I run a startup. We have some numbers, but still, funding is still difficult. And I think being able to convince a single investor, I mean, it's a group of angel investors we convinced. Of course, that's sort of signaling, right? So, but then we still have difficulty raising. So, what exactly are the numbers? And also, Mr. Tofarati, you could also share your thoughts on that. Thanks. I mean, the metrics, what's the numbers you look at? How do you value early stage startup? Okay, we're fintech, right? So, I don't know, quickly, what we do is that we make it possible for parents to pay school fees monthly. We pay at the beginning of the term, then they pay us back monthly, spread across 3 months. There's also, yeah, so that's what we do. So how exactly would you, what are the metrics you use? Yeah?
How do you value a startup?
Thank you. So there are different ways of valuing depending on what stage that you're at. So if you're pre-seed, so that means you haven't raised a lot of money, there's no easy way to value. It becomes an art. It becomes a question of you saying, how much money do I need? How much of my company am I willing to give away? And then creating the valuation off of the back of that. So for example, if you say, and you can convince an investor that you need $100,000 to get your business to the next stage, and you say you only want to give away 10% of your company, your valuation becomes $1 million. So at the early stage, it's very much an art. But then what you can do is you can have other investments outside of equity, like convertible loans, safes, and the benefit of something with a safe is that you don't need to value your company upfront. Instead, you're saying, investor, give me this amount of money for it to convert into equity in the future. But the problem there is that if you don't value your company now, you might end up giving away more of your company later. So yeah, so you can do safes, you can do equity, or you can do a loan and debt, and that means you don't need to value your company at all. But then when it gets to the stage where you have proper traction, you have revenue, you're making $1 million a year in revenue, at that stage it becomes more of a science. So what will happen there is they typically use what we call valuation metrics, or multiples. So they look at how much has been raised by big fintech companies, how much money they were making, so what their EBITDA is, what their earnings before interest, depreciation, etc. is. And then they look at what typically in that sector the multiple is between the valuation of the company and your EBITDA. But that's not something you need to think about until you're making decent revenue. For Techstars, we just keep it simple. We say we will give you up to $120,000. $20,000 of that is just yours. The $100,000 is a convertible note, which means it's debt that converts into equity when you do a proper equity round. And for that, we take 6% of your company. So our terms are fixed to avoid all this complication.
Thank you very much. I honestly can't add much to that, but when you have a microphone, you maybe have the urge to talk. Yes, it's difficult at the early stage. It's more of an art than science. And as you begin to grow, you are showing revenues, and people are looking at multiple of revenue. And she has already said that there are some industry benchmarks, depending on the type of industry. Revenue multiple for a payment tech company is going to be different from another company, even if it's supported by tech, but it is health tech, may be different from payment, payment may be different from e-commerce and what have you. So it may depend on the industry and the standard, and of course, the market condition. A year ago, market was very, very bullish. Fast forward 6 months after, everything was down. Last year, the tech companies quoted on, I think NASDAQ, that's where they get quoted now, they went down by about 40% in valuation. So if you are lucky to have raised money in February or January, you'll be smiling to the bank. If you wanted to raise, if you delayed because you wanted more money, and then by the middle of the year, you'll be struggling to raise money. Then it mentioned EBITDA. There is EBITDA multiple. Now there is one concept that investors look at and convinces them that they can continue to back you. Even though usually your EBITDA should not be negative. Once your EBITDA is negative, it's a problem. But for early stage companies, EBITDA may actually be negative. However, there is a matrix that usually investors use to check whether they can continue to back this company. And it's a function of your growth. If they look at the rate at which you are growing, and I think they relate it to the EBITDA margin, which is negative, they will begin to understand that if this company continues to grow at this rate at a minimum, it will turn the corner 18 months down the line, so they continue to back. I don't have the precise number, but since I discovered Professor Google answers all questions. So this thinking, once you understand the concept, go and Google, you'll find the answer. But I'm sure that she will have the answer.
Sir, how do we know some of those programs, those grant opportunities?
Yeah, like the last speaker said about, I did mention some things when I was talking. I talked about Lagos State Science, Research and Innovation Council. This body has a lot of money, a lot to give to startups. And they also help to guide them through mentorship, through other projects that they would have towards ensuring that many of these ideas become big. That is one. And there is also an avenue with Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, And I believe so very strongly that these are some of the avenues that many people can, access without, it'd be very difficult when private investors, when you are engaging private investors. What we have done is to serve as a gap to bridge the gap between some of the difficulties startups are having in the general market and government coming into the place to provide some, support. I also did mention about the SDG Grant Challenge. We have received a lot of innovative ideas, that are helping in health, in education, in transportation, and all of that. And these are some of the avenues. Imagine a company that is just starting, and you have an opportunity to access, 5 million naira to start up. And when we see that this is an idea that is potentially great, it can be scaled up. These are some of the avenues. I did I think you are the main person handling this. Okay, as a team, they have our contact. My office is Office of Lagos State Sustainable Development Goals and Investments. In fact, Mr. Govt created our office to ensure that there is a strong intersection between SDG, the achievement of SDG in Lagos State, and facilitation of investment, and also creating an enabling environment for ease of business. Let me show some sign of our commitment. This building that you are seeing, I think is a facility that is, suitable for us to have this kind of engagement. When we started running this facility as a government, Mr. Governor thought it fit that it should be transferred to a private sector, and it's given to the Jacobs family. And I believe very strongly that a lot of people have had the need to access this facility than what they will get from private, facilities. You will see a lot of colorful cables going around in the city if you are paying attention. This is part of the infrastructural support the government is putting in place for broadband to support what the startups are doing and to support what everyone within the ecosystem of technology and ICT are doing. I think, to wrap it up because of time, we need to look at opportunities that are available in Lagos State Science Research and Innovation Council and what we have to offer within the office of the SDGs, as well as Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. These funds, you don't have to cut your neck or to have to bring your grandma to access funds through this opportunity. I think it's a way for a startup to really start up well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.